Move on to talk about some things happening right around and in Taiwan. Taiwan carried out a couple of missile tests, and these sparked a pretty big reaction from China, where China decided to then fly some fighter jets, Su-30s and J-10s, into Taiwanese airspace. Nothing, happened. There wasn't any interception, so it looks like, in that sense, it wasn't an event that could have escalated. But it was a pretty big deal. And as far as, when we talk about these things, going in cycles, it seems to be an escalation on both sides. First, the Taiwanese missile test, and then the Chinese response. Then these two sides played the same thing out on the next day. And, well, I guess for me, the reason that this story is so important is because of the growing U.S. ties with Taiwan, especially throughout the Trump administration. Having the highest level official visit to Taiwan, I think, since the U.S. actually recognized mainland China being, the government of China. So was that 90, it's either 71 or 79, I think. And so, that's happened. The U.S. has really increased weapon sales to Taiwan, and so I think Taiwan is then acting more provocative. China, and acting more provocative in response. And then there's, also, I think one of the things that China has been trying to do with their Belt and Road Initiative, where, they'll do essentially what the U.S. will do with the IMF. They'll say, hey, you adopt this kind of policy that we like, then you get this massive loan. And so China is, I think, leveraging some of those loans to do things like getting countries to label their, whenever you get a flight from like wherever, I'm trying to think, St. Petersburg to Taiwan, China wants to make it so that the flag, next to Taiwan is the Chinese flag and not the Taiwanese flag. And, to in that way, I guess, adopt the world culture that Taiwan is a part of China. And so there's a lot of that going on. But, this seems to be very provocative and in some ways, resembles a little bit of the heightening tensions that we've talked about, like in the Black Sea between the U.S. and Russia, that's been going on the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, we do see some parallels between those things, and it seems like there's been all kinds of there's been like a real flurry of activity in like this in and around China and the waters around China this year especially. I mean, they're always doing these kind of like the U.S. is often doing these freedom of navigation missions and show of force missions and all kinds of deployments and stuff. We have like a base in Guam and all this stuff. But this year especially, it seems like there's just been a lot more. Like you mentioned, of course, these for 2 days in a row here we had Chinese war. And China, of course, they consider Taiwan like their own, like a province of China proper. And so, they consider that their own territory technically. Whereas the Taiwanese, of course, believe, they're their own republic and they claim sovereignty and all this stuff. And the U.S. does generally align with them. However, we had these Taiwanese missile drills, these live fire missile drills. But I think those even sort of were in response to these Chinese naval drills, because the Chinese have been doing also their own like big series of naval drills. In the last couple of weeks. I think they were doing them in 4 major regions all at once, actually, simultaneously. So it was a big series of drills. We actually covered this on the show in the context of the U.S. U-2 spy plane flying over one of those naval drills over a no-fly zone. And so, I mean, it's been a very busy last couple months in terms of all these deployments and, drills and espionage flights and show of force missions in and around China.
Yeah. And when you just look at the deteriorating economic relationship between the U.S. and China, it seems even more important not to have these kind of tensions, and that it should be, the clear message of the Trump administration to Taiwan that do not pick a fight with China because we do not have your back. I don't think Trump necessarily needs to come out and make that statement publicly, but he needs to be, getting on the phone with Taiwan in response to this and saying like, look, we're not good getting into a shooting war with China for you. So be sure, everybody, to keep up with what Jason Ditz and Dave DeCampo writing on the news section at antiwar.com, because when the U.S., China, Taiwan, anybody carries out one of these drills, in and around China that raises tension. They're always sure to cover it. I was just reading today actually from them that Japan now, Abe's last act as prime minister, he wants to give Japan more missile capabilities and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
so
so that's also tensions and raising the states with China there.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we also have the thing like the Quad NATO, that's all with eyes on China, trying to develop these like regional alliances. And they were talking about wanting to expand that. I forget if they may have mentioned Taiwan. They definitely said South Korea that they wanted to eventually expand that into. And so yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely important to watch, the way the U.S. is emboldening some of these regional countries to oppose the Chinese.